A very warm welcome to you all. Our guest tonight is Ishant Ayadassen. He is 25 years old and the founder of Curators. Through Curators, Ishant has been able to push many Mauritian artists on a worldwide scale and allow them to sell their art. Ishant, thank you so much for joining us in the studio of the MBC.
Thank you, Koyo. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Ishant, since the conception of art, many paintings, drawings, and sculptures have existed in the physical world. But as technology has advanced, so have the ways for making and experiencing art. More and more artists are now drawn to digital art, especially with the introduction of NFT. Before we dive more into this topic, explain to us what an NFT is and how does it work?
So, in the shortest and simplest way possible, what I'll say about an NFT is, it is the proof of ownership of a digital asset, and what it stands for. NFT means non-fungible token. The word fungible means being replicated, right? So, what is something that is fungible? A dollar. My dollar is equal to your dollar. My Bitcoin is equal to your Bitcoin, right? But something that is non-fungible is an artwork, for example. It can be a video, picture, right? Something that can't be reproduced, that is one of one, that is unique, essentially.
And how can someone create an NFT maybe?
So there are different ways for people to create NFTs. First of all, there has to be, the NFT has within it embedded a video, a picture, an artwork, a track, right? It could be anything. It could be lines of code. It could be house. It could be anything as long as it's one of one, it's unique, right? So how you create one would be really by putting that content, essentially that asset, on a platform that will allow you to mint it on the blockchain, right? Because an NFT resides on the blockchain.
Can we say that NFT is therefore a digital asset that exists completely in the digital universe? I mean, you can't touch it, but you can own it. Is that NFT?
Yes, but there also are NFTs that have a digital and physical representation in a sense, right? So an artwork could have been done physically, but is converted into a digital version and therefore turned into an NFT. But within that NFT, the physical piece can also be wrapped in it. So the ownership of the physical piece and the digital piece is the NFT, essentially.
Okay. And Ishan, how, according to you, this new digital means of selling art affect creators and the creative industry?
Well, as you can see, there's a lot more value that artists and creators around the world are currently being able to extract from their creativity, from their art. And that is thanks to that digital adoption, that new means of selling and appreciating and looking at art, right? NFTs are viewed a lot as digital assets, right? So it's kind of like an investment in a sense. It's an asset that you can buy and sell over time, right?
And traditional ways of art, such as painting, have value because they are unique. But as we all know, digital files can be easily duplicated. To what extent do you think that NFT can ensure ownership and authenticity of a digital artwork or even physical artwork?
So the law surrounding NFTs is very kind of gray right now still because it's not super well defined in a sense. It's a growing industry. So for example, on Loot NFT, in the Lootverse, all NFTs have wrapped within it, a legal agreement. And that legal agreement gives you the proof of ownership of that piece, that creation, on top of having your name tagged to the creation itself as the owner on the blockchain. And on the blockchain, you can't really, once something is put there, you can't really change it.
Since you've mentioned about loot, could you maybe explain to our audience what loot is? How is it different to NFT?
Okay, so the Lootverse is essentially a fantasy parallel universe, right? You probably heard about Meta, so Facebook changing to Meta, where they are building essentially a virtual world where you can be immersed and essentially live in a sense, right? For us, the Lootverse is, and the Lootverse was built by Loot NFT, right? So the Lootverse is this parallel universe where you have plots of land, where you have businesses being built, where you have NFTs being sold in the arena. So the arena where are listed several artists. So essentially, the three top selling artists in Mauritius right now have been represented by us, Curators, and have been listed in the arena within the Lootverse. And as part, given that they were put in the Lootverse and made part of that game, essentially, that fantasy world, where people are coming in and bidding at auctions, not only to get the artwork, but also to mine and get new cryptocurrency that we use within the Lootverse. Therefore, that really is what pushed, in a sense, the value of these artworks. And the top three selling artists have, on top of course, their own creativity, right? Because there's a lot of artworks that are being sold there. So why them getting the top values, right?
I was actually coming to that. Ishant, would you say that NFT is a quicker process and a more accessible way for designers and artists in Mauritius to produce work and reap the rewards of their creativity?
Yes, definitely. I think so. But it is important to also note that the NFT market is, a lot of people are trying to get into it, right? So in a sense, on some platforms like OpenSea, Rarible, Foundation, it's really hard to break out because it is kind of getting saturated. But the difference with our platform is because it's really exclusive. And when I say our platform, it is the Lootverse, which I am an advisor of. And Curators, just to put it in context, Curators is a curator of Loot NFT. There are only 4 curators in the world that can find and list artists on Loot NFT and in the Lootverse, and we're one of them. And that's how we're able to list them there and achieve what we've achieved for these artists. But it's very highly exclusive. It's not like OpenSea, Rarible, where anyone can go and mint their NFTs and try to sell them. You really need a lot of marketing, a lot of effort put into getting your NFT out there, right? There needs to be a lot of strategy involved also. It's not as simple as just listing an artwork and getting someone to buy it, right? You need to get the word out there, but how it's different is that the exposure you can get is more digital, so it's more worldwide rather than going to an art expo where you have 100, 200 people that are going to see your artwork.
Share with us how you've pushed the Mauritian artists to gain worldwide popularity and be able to sell their art.
So when Loot NFT started in July of last year, and I joined as a curator, and I was already an advisor. So we started talking to artists in Mauritius because I have a network in Mauritius. I knew a lot of artists in Mauritius already, and it turns out that not a lot of them understood even what we were doing, and a lot of them did not believe in what we were doing. At the time, a lot of people kind of gave up on the opportunity, really. But as time went by December, a lot of our artworks were going for above between $20,000 to $45,000 per artwork.
And what was your reaction to that when you learned that the free Mauritian artists gained such success?
Well, I was really happy, but I was not surprised because we worked so hard towards making that happen, right? So I was extremely happy because in the history of Mauritius, I'm not sure about that, but we tried to find as much information as possible, but we didn't find any Mauritians in the past that publicly sold an artwork for more than even 1 million rupees. In 1 month, we were able to get 3 Mauritian artists to sell for 2.1 million, 2.2 million, so 2.1 million, 2 million, and 1.9 million rupees each in 1 month. So I think we really proved the point and showed that we need to move with our time, right, and embrace this digital world, this whole metaverse direction that everyone's taking.
Do you feel that more youngsters are drawn to digital art, especially with the recent world events like COVID? We have restrictions everywhere, exhibitions cannot be done. So do you feel that digital art is a way to gain access to a global audience?
Yes, I really think so. There's a lot of, but the majority of Mauritians that I see are still fully focused on physical, traditional art. But I'll use an example of Sean Beyond, who's the number three top-selling artist in Mauritius right now, for having sold for 1.9 million, one artwork for 1.9 million, and he had two other artworks that he also listed on the platform that sold for another 700. I think in total, all the three artworks went for about 2.6 million rupees. And that's all digital. That's all digital, right? You don't have to go through all the hassle of handling the physical piece itself, right? And with digital art, we see a lot more that is possible, right? And we see that elsewhere in other countries, internationally, the focus is more on digital art nowadays. So I think Mauritius should move in that direction also. But physical art is not in any way, shape, or form less valuable than digital art.
Yes.
Physical art is still art, right? But it's just that with that digital adoption, people care a little bit more about just the digital piece.
Could you elaborate a bit on the artworks that the free Mauritian people had created and
Yes.
which helped them to gain such a good income, maybe?
Yes. So the first one, 2.1 million rupees, is Chitra Dukan. She made a piece called Emergence. And when we brought her on, she was skeptical, like most at the time. But I guess right now she's really, really happy about being the top-selling artist in Mauritius. So that's Chitra. And then there was Tanya, Tanya Naigum, that sold a piece called Breathe, and that sold for about 2 million rupees. So that too is I think, a nice achievement for her. And both Chitra and Tanya were not really known as artists before.
Okay.
Tanya was just doing it in her free time as a
Just a passion,
as a
maybe.
passion,
Just
exactly.
passion.
And Chitra was doing it for fun too, because Chitra has also another full-time job, and that's normal because most people feel like they can't make it with a full-time art career in Mauritius because
true,
I
yes.
get the impression that art is not valued as much here as it is elsewhere, unfortunately. And the third one is Sean Beyond, who sold a piece called The Thinker, and that was one piece out of a set of three. And that sold for 1.9 million, and that was fully digital. That really attracted the attention of a lot of people in the Lootverse. And I think I should mention Abhishek Shealal, who sold a meme. So we also sold a meme as an NFT, right?
A meme as an NFT.
We sold a meme as an NFT, yes. And the thing is, that what was special about that meme was a meme that Abhishek had done himself and had posted on Twitter, on a tweet of Elon Musk. And Elon Musk himself had replied to that tweet. So we took a screenshot of the meme with the reply of Elon Musk and the meme itself, wrapped that into an NFT and sold it in the Lootverse. And that sold for about 700,000 rupees.
So we can say that digital art in a way helps youngsters to explore their creativity to its fullest, right?
Exactly. And you'll see that I don't use the word artists as much as say creators, right?
Yeah, true.
Because creators, it's everything, right? Like I said, anything can be an NFT. Lines of code can be an NFT. A UX UI design for an app could be an NFT, right? A house could be an NFT. Anything can be an NFT as long as it's unique, right? And I think to put that in context, I'll say there's also a pretty known artist in Mauritius. He's a producer and DJ. His name is Kenzo, Fabrice David. He sold a piece, a 3-minute track called Harbinger of Hope. So it's an audio. And he sold that for about 500,000 rupees, and it was earlier this month. So I think that's probably the highest a track has sold for in Mauritius so far, probably. Don't quote me on that, but probably.
And how do you see this emerging sector developing in Mauritius? How do your friends and family see it?
So for the longest time, friends and family didn't understand anything.
Yes,
about
it's
what
quite complicated. I mean,
Yes.
NFT, like, what is that?
Right. So not a lot of people were able to stay, to keep up with what we're
Yes.
doing. But as time goes by and people are learning slowly about it and hearing about what we're doing, what we're achieving, now people are having this interest a lot more to learn by themselves.
Curiosity maybe as well.
Exactly. Out of curiosity, a lot of people are going and finding out on their own, because I'll tell you honestly, you can just go on Google and type what is an NFT, right?
But tell us, how do you see this emerging sector in Mauritius?
So what's good is that recently the virtual asset bill was passed that regulates digital assets. And people usually think when regulation comes out, it's bad. No, it's not necessarily bad. It just means that it's giving everyone a framework to essentially operate within while doing everything legally, right? For us, it doesn't affect us directly because Curators is a brand of Trades, which is that is headquartered and registered in the U.S. And has other brands under it, like Afreeca Invest and some other brands. But for other people in Mauritius that would want to get into that space, now you have a framework that you can use. And essentially, it's not fully set up yet, but it's passed. So the regulators are looking at it, and they're going to build a framework that we can work around.
Okay. Ishant, you're also the founder of Afreeca Invest.
Yes.
Tell us more about that company. When did you start it?
So Afreeca Invest is really the reason I came back to Mauritius. I've been in the US for the past 5 years. In the last year, I became a licensed stockbroker in the US, and I was working temporarily as a financial advisor. But I quickly quit that job in January of 2021 to launch Trades that has Curators and Afreeca Invest under it, right? And what Afreeca Invest does is essentially what Robinhood in the US did for me. Robinhood is a trading app in the US that I joined in 2017. And that app is the reason why I became a trader. That's the reason why I got into finance, and that's the reason why I became an investor, a financial advisor, right? And that's why I got into the whole financial fintech world, because that app essentially provided me with a tool for me to trade US stocks for very low commissions, so very low fees. My reason for coming back to Mauritius was I wanted to provide this tool to a lot of Mauritians, because in Mauritius, I know a lot of people want to learn about trading. Whenever I would post stuff on my social media, people would always ask me a lot of questions, but I couldn't help them because in Mauritius, they don't have the tool to be able to go on an app and invest in US stocks. So that's essentially what Afreeca Invest is going to do. It's an app that you just take out of your pocket, you log into the app, you place an order, you can buy a share of Apple, Facebook, Amazon, or whatever. So any shares of stocks that are traded on the New York Stock Exchange, you can buy on our app. You would be able to buy on our app soon when we launch for very low fees, for a maximum of $2 per transaction. And the app is very user-friendly, so anyone can go there. You don't need much experience. You can go and play around. Right now, we recently just launched the beta version, which is essentially we gave the app for free to people, and now they can just trade using fake money. They can practice trading US stocks, essentially.
But is entrepreneurship something that you've always wanted to do?
Yes, so in 2014, when I left high school, essentially, so college in Mauritius, I took a gap year. Right? I took a gap year and I did a bunch of stuff. And that's when I really realized that what I really want to do is entrepreneurship. When I went to uni in Florida, in the US, I really realized quickly that for sure that's really what I want to do. And that's what I find pleasure in doing. For me, it's not work. It's really a passion, right? And I launched my first business in the US while I was in uni. It was called Munch Deliveries, and it was a food delivery app for college students. And with COVID, I had to shut that down and then move to becoming a financial advisor. And then I got my license and everything.
And as an entrepreneur, what were the challenges that you had to face, or that you are yet to face, maybe?
Yes, so challenges that are always going to be there is you will always face pushback. People are always going to say no. People are always going to look at you and say bad things.
Yes.
In Mauritius, everyone talks, right? So, and not just in Mauritius, but everywhere. You just have to keep pushing. Never give up. If you believe in your idea and you know how you will execute it, never give up. But a lot of entrepreneurs or people that think they want to be entrepreneurs, they think they have a great idea and then they're like, oh, great, I have a great idea. I'm an entrepreneur. No, it's not just that. To be an entrepreneur, successful one, you need to be able to properly execute on your idea, because anyone can have an idea. There's no point in trying to protect your idea or do all that stuff. If you can execute properly, you don't have to shield yourself from anything else. Just full force ahead, execute as fast and as efficiently as possible, and keep innovating, because that's what's going to keep you ahead and keep you ahead of the competition.
And what are your future goals now?
So right now, it is obviously to grow the Aya Trades group brand and really push Aya Curators forward. And how we do that, why we do that really is to push Mauritian artists and artists worldwide forward. So there's a lot of things, a lot of different ways that Aya Curators is currently expanding that will create a lot of other opportunities for Mauritian artists as well as international artists. Right now, the arena, not a lot of Mauritians can get in. It's very, very exclusive. But there's other things in the Lootverse that can be done for these artists. And Aya Curators is not limited only to the Lootverse. Once we build that relationship with that artist, they have gained that experience, they have gained that exposure, we can help them get listed, or essentially list them and accompany them throughout their whole journey, their digital journey, with NFTs on other platforms, right? And we also have a partnership with a few companies in Mauritius that essentially help us still push these artists on the ground physically also, not just digitally. We're not completely ignoring the physical part.
Ishant, you are 25 and you have a successful startup. Any advice you would like to give to Mauritian people, Mauritian youngsters, to encourage them to follow their dreams always?
Like I said, don't give up. Keep pushing forward. It's not going to be easy. It's really not going to be easy. If you're thinking that it's going to be a 9 to 5, no. If you want to be successful, you'll have to be dedicating 24 hours of your day to whatever you're doing, right? Until it gets to a point that it's a bit stable, and then you can possibly take a breather. But it's going to be very hard for a while, but it's very, very, very rewarding. So keep your eyes on the prize, and just keep pushing forward. Never give up.
We are actually drawing towards the end of this episode, but before we close, we have actually interviewed some of the Mauritian artists who have been able to sell their arts on a worldwide scale through Aya Curators. Have a look at them.
It started from home actually. When my brother was a kid, he used to win painting competition. I just followed his path. And also I find that art is a kind of getaway for me. When I hold my paintbrush, I feel relaxed. The theme was emergence. Actually, my inspiration derived from women who have been sharing their pain with me. Emergence actually portrays a woman who have been suffering a lot, and now it's her time to bloom, it's her time to shine. The red color, the intense red color in the painting shows her confidence, her power, her strength.
I've been practicing art for like since I'm a kid. It's been like forever, and I've seen that there's been kind of an evolution in my work from what I was doing in the past and now. So I've kind of find my own world, creating my own world, and this is my ways of like telling my stories through visual communication and stuff like that. I wasn't expecting that, and thanks to my curators, Curators, they made the whole process super easy. And in the start, in the beginning, like I was pretty skeptical, and that it went so well. I was like, wow. So this is it. So the artworks themselves are pretty much based on philosophies and psychology, like how the mind works, how we perceive the world, and what we perceive, how do we see reality, you know, how it's different for different person, how we like create our own reality and stuff like that. This is.
Ishant, thank you so much for being with us in the studio of the MBC. It was such a pleasure to have you here, talk about art, technology and NFT.
Thank you for having me, Koya. It was great.
Dear viewers, we have now come to the end of this episode. Thank you for your time. We hope to catch you next week at the same time, same channel. Have a great evening.